let's open up with one of the bigger topics. Now, this has been a conversation, ladies and gentlemen, that has been going on almost all week. And it's about Gears of War. Now, look, we have had multiple sources basically confirm that the Gears collection, aka the Marcus Phoenix collection, exists. And this dates all the way back, and I got to give him credit where credit is due. Special Nick of Xbox Era, who is going to be vindicated when this game is announced in June, talked about it. I want to say it's got to be about 2, it might even be 3 years ago, right? He has a lot of good connections. Obviously, look, whether you like Nick or you don't, I love the guy, and he's more right than he's wrong. Let's just say that. Well, this week has been super busy with the words Gears of War, right? We've heard a lot of things. Now, the original rumor came the way of Detective Seeds. Now, Detective Seeds, if you don't know him, he's a damn good content creator. PlayStation, informed PlayStation dude, right? And he talked about the Gears of War collection being backloaded onto PSN, and what he was able to see from what was sent to him is it didn't say anything about multiplayer. It said single player and co-op. Now, it is launching with co-op. It is launching as a single player, but the question of multiplayer, PvP, has been, well, there isn't going to be one, right? That was what Mag from XNC and his own YouTube channel, of course, Mag used to be a part of Primetime Gaming. That's what he heard. That's what Detective Seeds heard. I have a separate source. I have 4 of them. Now, I heard from 2, and the 2 that I heard from both said that it was Gears 1, 2, and 3 single player with co-op. Now, that upset a lot of people in the gaming community, especially in the Gears of War community, because it was thought that when the Gears collection was originally rumored to be launching day and date on PlayStation 5, that means that PlayStation would be getting finally a good multiplayer game, right? Because they don't have a lot. Now, Helldivers 2 is a great freaking game. I bought it. I haven't been back to it in a minute, but it's a phenomenal piece of artwork. I absolutely love it. And listen, the Konami controlled controls that you have to do to drop things really makes you sweat when you're playing the game, especially if you get surrounded. I love it. I actually hope that it comes to Xbox at some point because I think Xbox players would really embrace that game. Getting back to Gears, there was a thought, ladies and gentlemen, that PlayStation gamers who at one point may have been Xbox 360 fans during the run of the Gears trilogy would come back to and be able to play a game that they remember. Because remember, there was a huge shift from 360 to PS4 for a bunch of reasons back in 2013, which we're not going to get into. And a lot of people were like, okay, yeah, we're going to wreck, the Xbox dudes are going to wreck the PlayStation guys or gals, whatever. I mean, I guess that would be, fun for, just conversation in the community. But ultimately, that kind of got diminished, Silent Cypher, by some of the rumors that we all heard that there was not going to be multiplayer. Well, I got some updated news from Jez Corden of Windows Central, who's another one who confirmed that the Gears of War collection not only exists, but it could. He was hearing things about whether it was going to be multiplayer or not. Well, there's an update. Thanks to Jez Corden, again, Windows Central reporter, also one half of the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor 19. Here is what Jez had to say on his social account known as Twitter. Been unable to confirm or debunk this so far regarding the multiplayer. Aside from the suggestion that there's some misinformation in the current rumors, I do think it would be an odd thing for from any perspective, Gears collection to ship without PvP. Now, he does have a follow-up tweet that makes this even more spicy, Silent Cypher. He goes on to say, I'd say don't worry too much about the most recent rumors for now and wait for some more concrete, but we'll see. Or wait for something more concrete, but we'll see. I will keep digging. So, what that says to me is that he must have gotten even just a bit of a taste or a listen that the Gears multiplayer could in fact be there. Because look, I'm going to be honest with you, and I said this yesterday live on the air, and I'll repeat it. Silent Cipher. Me personally, I don't care about multiplayer, but that doesn't make it right for it not to be there. I've always been a single player guy for Gears. I've tried multiplayer. It's just not my bag. I'm more of a first person shooter guy, which is why I line up with Halo and Call of Duty. And when Battlefield come back in a big way, I will be on that as well. So Gears multiplayer never did anything for me, and that's okay. But it's also not okay for me for me to just throw it to the wind and be like, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to everyone. If you play Gears of War multiplayer, of course it's going to matter to you, and your opinion does matter. So based on what we just read, verbatim from Jez Corden on his Twitter account, I'd say let's just temper the rumors at this point, because again, we've all said it. Take it with a grain of salt. This is what we've heard, but it could be wrong. My question to the panel, my question to the chat, again, this is a different question from yesterday and the day before, because we've been covering this all week, is if this collection releases with multiplayer, is it a W? But is it an L if it releases as single player co-op only? Sound Cipher.
Well, I mean, I'm of two minds on it, and I know what you're talking about, right? Is like even though you may not be into the multiplayer, you still have to factor in a lot of people were stoked about it.
Yeah.
Folks like Crispy, for example, big fans. I feel I feel like it's a win that they're bringing them back out, but it does feel a little half baked. The idea that it wouldn't release out with multiplayer. Um, I I would enjoy having it there, even if it was only just to kick the butts of my friends who only have a Sony console. It'd be fun to mess with them and curb stomp them and stuff. But it's it's a weird thing given the timing that we're in, because we know obviously that if you have the multiplayer, if you have those options, you have the ability to put in your microtransactions, get extra skins out there, bring these different things out so you can get additional monetary investment in the game, even if the person just bought out on Game Pass, or even if they just bought the game the one time, you can get repeat sales from them. Call of Duty does it constantly. So the idea that they wouldn't have a multiplayer aspect where you could actually purchase more skins and do stuff like that feels like it's a missed opportunity. That being said, I'm very supportive of the fact that they are continuing to heavily support campaign-based content too, right? Like Phil even came out and was talking about this previously. And with Avowed, for example, is like, I'm happy that we have a strong push for campaign and also even like couch co-op and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. But it's a really weird thing, since those games originally did come out with a multiplayer. And so to not have that just feels like, something's missing. It feels like money left on the table, because if you're cutting that out again, you're not going to have all those microtransaction options. If it's a thing, the thing that will aggravate me, and this will be me on my tangent, but the thing that'll aggravate me is if it turns out that it's a thing that they're going to release it as single player, but the multiplayer is going to come later because they don't have enough time to make it work. That's where I'm going to have a problem with it.
Okay,
because,
that's fair. That's a fair point.
Fuzzy and I have had this conversation before about Forza. When Forza came out, when Motorsport came out this last time, I was very pro, like, if you need the time to give me the extra
Then take it. Yeah.
features and all that stuff, you take the time you need.
Yep.
I don't need the game right now. We got plenty of stuff in the hopper. It's no big deal. But that's just me, right? Is like if that's what the reasoning is as to why we're not seeing it, and so it's like a partially true. It's like, well, we're not getting it initially. Take the time you need and just make it a complete package because we've seen how many times something gets half baked, sent out, people thrash it, and eventually it's a really good game, but you didn't have all those features at the beginning. It's like, yes, I want to play these games as soon as they're available, but if they're not ready, they're not ready. Like, give them the time to bake if that was the case.
That's
Now,
fair.
obviously, like you said, this is a rumor at this point. There's a lot pointing towards maybe both sides of it. And who knows? Like my idea of them saying, "Hey, we're releasing this, but later." Again, like I have no proof that that's what the plan is or anything. But if that were the case, that would kind of slight me a little bit. But if it's not there altogether, I do have to side with Crispy a bit. Like it does kind of annoy me that it's not a complete package. If you're gonna do the thing, do the thing. Like you're putting in the
So
effort as it
basically, you're
is.
saying that no half in and out. What you're
Yeah,
saying?
no half baking. Like
Yeah.
no, as they always said in Breaking Bad, no half measures. Right?
Yep.
You either do the thing, you go in full board, or you don't. Like just you have a user base and a fan base for that franchise that would love to jump into this, and you have a lot of people who never even touched the original games. Since you'll be on new systems, the idea of releasing it with all of the options and stuff, the multiplayer, campaign, and co-op, that feels like a big win to me. To not have all that feels like a missed opportunity financially and just to create a bigger install base.
Yeah. I mean, it's good points. Now, while you were speaking, something came to mind that I did not say previously that makes me wonder if in fact why this decision was made. And again, right now, it's been reported by numerous sources. We all have different sources that there isn't going to be a multiplayer aspect added to this collection. That it is for single player and co-op only. That's of course I agree with everyone. It should be the complete package, but selfishly, it doesn't affect me, but it will affect other gamers, and that's why I think it should be because everyone should get what they want out of this deal. I've said before, publicly and privately, by all accounts, in 2025, the fact that we are potentially getting a Gears 1, 2, and 3 remade from Unreal Engine 3 to Unreal Engine 5.3, which at this point is going to be benchmarked by one of the best in the business, the Coalition. It shouldn't even exist, but it does. Now, again, I'm a single player guy. I'm going to play through the whole campaign, all three campaigns with my brother, same way we've done years ago in glorious Unreal Engine 5.3. I can't wait. I'm not going to miss the multiplayer if it's not there, but it still deserves to be there for people who want to play the multiplayer. See, so now I thought about this and I said, this was originally supposed to, again, it has not ever been officially announced. That is supposed to be happening in June, supposedly. But this rumor has been floating around for years. So the question is, why hasn't it come out before? Was it because it wasn't ready? Was it because they were honing their Unreal Engine 5 skills? I don't know. Or was this held back to make a 3 platform release? PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC. But then I take it another step further. I roll the dice again and say, wait a second. Is the potential single player and co-op decision based on the fact that, well, PlayStation 5 players, they don't really do multiplayer. Yes, they play Apex Legends. Yes, they play Call of Duty, of course. We saw the numbers, how many people on PlayStation bought Call of Duty. They had almost, I think it was 68%. It was ridiculous how many people bought Call of Duty on PS5. But could that be one of the reasons that they're just not multiplayer gamers over there? Did they do some internal testing with it with PlayStation gamers, and they're like, I'd rather play the over-the-shoulder, story-driven, real detailed graphics kind of a thing that they get with Uncharted and God of War and Horizon. See, that's another question. I don't know the answer to that, but we should know something soon enough because June is only a couple of months away, and they are supposedly announcing it there. But Fuzzy Belvedere, let's bring you in on the conversation. And again, this is a question that in its nature is simplistic, but I think it has a bunch of backloaded conversation that I'm very interested to get your thoughts on. If it releases in this Unreal Engine 5.3 benchmarked, engine, and it shows us Gears in a way that we've never seen it before, that we've always imagined in our heads. As a matter of fact, I think what we're going to see is what our gaming eyes saw in the 360 era, and we were like, holy shit, are you kidding me, these graphics? Well, now it's going to be Unreal Engine 5.3, potentially benchmarked.
That's a tough one because I said something a while ago with E-Day that I didn't think it was going to come with multiplayer, and people roasted me for it.
As the internet does.
It doesn't make sense for both to have multiplayer. So if you have to pick and choose between E-Day having multiplayer or the collection having multiplayer, me personally, I thought it would have made more sense to have the collection have multiplayer, because you can mix E-Day into it at some point, as far as like the characters or the basically the skins from E-Day in there. And if the collection was going to be a multi-plat, let's just say, having the multiplayer there would make sense. So it kind of depends on which of the two titles goes multi-plat day and date. That will be the one that has the multiplayer with it. So let's just, and I know I'm not trying to get roasted on this either. Let's just say E-Day winds up being on both platforms day and date. That one would be the one that makes the most sense to have the multiplayer. You can have more of a narrowed focus. Sure, you can have skins from the collection in it, but focus more so on the E-Day specific maps, I guess you could say, with maybe a few of the other ones rotated in at some point. If E-Day is that multi-plat title and you want it to have the most legs, focus on the multiplayer for that. The collection is more so for I guess nostalgia, let's just say. And I can't really see them focusing on a multiplayer for both, unless there's going to be a Warzone-like multiplayer app at some point for the Gears series. I mean, I know there was a little bit of a split as far as when it came to the Halo, Halo Infinite and the multiplayer. Actually, the multiplayer, I think, launched first. This could be the opposite, where the single player part launches first. And I think from a timing standpoint, it probably should launch at the same time. But if it's one of those things where, hey, it's coming to Xbox, this is going to be your eye candy right now for the collection. The multiplayer will come later when it comes over to PlayStation. I could see them doing that, although that's probably going to rub some of the Xbox console owners the wrong way. But I don't think they're taking stuff like that into account anymore. I think it comes down to what they can make the most money off of in the least amount of time. And if you focus on multiplayer for both the collection and E-Day, you're basically burning the candle at both ends. Now, Brett Bingham brought up a good point in the chat. Well, maybe it's a split up because of space. Like we know the Series S only has 300 and some odd gigs on the original ones as far as available or usable space or something like that after the OS and probably some of the apps you'll have on it. So if the collection is as big as it could be, considering it being UE5, maybe there's a space concern and you can split it up where it'll be listed as a different app. They kind of did that with what was that? Crackdown as well, where it was a split app. To some extent, Halo is kind of a split app, and the way they're doing Call of Duty is just weird to me between the Warzone app and then the Call of Duty headquarters. So maybe they're organizing this in different apps just for space savings, which makes good sense. But I think in the big picture of things, not having multiplayer for the collection, probably, I wouldn't say a full L, but a missed opportunity. But I only think one of them gets a multiplayer. It's either E-Day, which will be, the higher res, the coalition main team worked on it. You'll probably be able to get skins from all of the Gears universe as far as in that game. Or you have, the collection, where I think their fear might be that it divvies up the player base to some extent. Because if somebody only wants to do maps from, Gears 1 or Gears 3 or something like that, you may not saying that you'll have issue with, searching for matches, but you might wind up playing the same players or a lot of the same people just because they have their preferences for one particular story or one particular set of maps and things like that. So it might split up or water down the player base a bit. But if you have the multiplayer on E-Day, it seems like it'll be a little bit more of a focused, playlist or rotation as far as what people will queue for and things like that. So, like I said, I think only one of them gets multiplayer. If the collection doesn't, then E-Day definitely will. But then the flip side is expected on another platform. And that's kind of where I could see their, the money people, kind of nudging the developers in that direction. But we'll see how it winds up.